Hi, all Agent here, and we are going to play a match with a bot I built specifically for Fast and Formidable. This one is a laser disintegrator hover. It's got 5 disintegrators on it. I've got 4 hovers and a blink at the core. It's got some E-plates for a little durability, and we got 2 thrusters for better top speeds, as well as some skis on the bottom. Actually, I put skis on the bottom because of the new friction. You'll touch the ground and go tumbling, and we don't want to go tumbling when we accidentally touch the ground. And it also makes it difficult when I capture towers like this to slide up into that little corner that I'm hiding behind right now. You have to land perfectly instead of hitting the ground and scooting in place. So I put skis on the bottom. I know it burns up like 100 more CPU, but it didn't really seem to affect my weapons, and I've got a radar on there. So I'm going to leave them on for now. The build does really well. It's still a little flippy, as you can see, when you hit the wrong incline. But you can't really use wings or rudders anymore on these hover builds because they will bring your top speed down a lot, and speed matters a lot when you're playing at lower CPUs now because the damage will just wipe you out a lot quicker. As you can see, I'm just chewing up these smaller bots, and that's because I'm using top tier lasers instead of lower tier. I don't really want that chain shredder near me, but looked like he burned up all of his energy, so I'm going to get out of there before he gets his chain shredder wound up. I'm going to heal, and then I'm going to come back and shoot his chain shredders off. But I want to see where he's at first. Looks like he went back around the corner to hide. So the whole point of these smaller builds is that so you have the energy to dish out a lot of damage quickly. It seems like a lot of players aren't really catching on that you don't have to min-max to the extreme. You don't have to go with like a 500 or 600 CPU build to have a good build that can dish out damage. You can go to about 1300 CPU with top tier weapons and still dish out more damage actually than you did before at 1750. I've got a lot of my old builds. I actually uploaded some from my old main account and used them without really doing anything to them. Some of them I didn't touch at all. Others I actually swapped out from tower capturing, like for instance plasma bombarders, to ravagers for the extra damage, and they do just fine sitting right at 1750 CPU. Plasma volley is still a plasma volley at 1750, and it does hurt. So what we're going to do here, obviously we want to shoot this shredder off before he winds up and gets a piece of me, which we succeeded at. Probably not going to be able to kill him before he gets away. I'm not going to chase him over there because that would be a bad idea. That's closer to their base shield, and I don't want to be over there. So we're not going to do that. But anyway, the point I'm getting at is that a lot of your old 1750 CPU builds are still going to function just fine. The ones that are going to be noticeably, I don't want to say weaker, but noticeably different are the ones that use the power module and kind of used it, I hate to say as a crutch, but used it as a crutch to extend their energy pool because it used to be passive regen. So as you were shooting, you were still regenerating power, and you didn't really notice how quickly you ran out of energy. Well, now it is an activated ability. It's no longer passive. So you actually notice how quickly you run out of energy, and you can only activate it once every 2 minutes, which in my opinion is pretty darn balanced. A lot of people want it to be 60 seconds, and I feel like that would be overpowered because once a minute you would have double the energy, and it kind of throws the current balance of the game completely out of whack. It would ruin the balance. So I wish I could use it every 60 seconds, but for the sake of balance, I definitely think 2 minutes is a pretty good spot for it. Even 90 seconds would probably be too much. It makes you think about when you use it. So anyway, this build here is just under 1200 CPU. It's like 1179 or something like that. It's just under 1200 CPU. And I have really good sustained damage with the laser disintegrators, and they do a lot of damage. And I can strafe and use my mobility to get around very quickly, circle enemies, ascend and descend to make them miss shots, which I do fairly often with rails. Good railers are going to hit you no matter what you're doing, but it seems like a sweet spot if you want to use disintegrators. Now, if you're going to go above like 1300 CPU, maybe even 12, if you're going to go above and beyond that, you're probably going to be better off using something such as vaporizers. And the closer you get to 2000 CPU, you're probably going to want to downgrade to even blasters. I've got a build that is at like 1999 CPU. It's almost completely maxed out, and it uses 3 modules, which is one of the reasons why I downgraded it to blasters. But the blasters put out pretty respectable damage. You're not going to go toe-to-toe with like a 2000 CPU behemoth of all cubes and guns with it. You're going to need to make passes on it and heal and just try not to go toe-to-toe with it. But your typical builds that you're going to see in the game right now, as you can see, this thing is going to shred them. You're actually going to be able to take on 2 or 3 enemies at a time with a build like this, because it is a well-balanced build that is fairly durable, and it puts out a lot of damage, and it can sustain that damage for a good amount of time. It's also fast and agile. It basically works on the same principle as the old drones did. Obviously, it's probably not quite as good as a drone pre-update, but it works on the same principle. It's fast, it's reasonably tough, but not super tough, and it dishes out a lot of damage. And that is the sweet spot with this update. Now, you can min-max and have maximum armor with more steady damage, and you're going to be pretty much a hard counter to something like this, because you're going to have a hard time in a 1200 CPU build taking on a full 2000 CPU build. And I have run into that situation with like 1600 CPU builds that use plasma. Like the laser wasps and hornets are actually kind of scary when you get close, and you'll find that they can de-gun you a lot, and you might as well be destroyed at that point. You don't have to wait on a respawn, but you also can't fight back, so you're left having to flee and escape. So the game itself, in general, is a lot more balanced. I think there's room for adjustment still. They could probably decrease energy consumption and damage across the board for all the weapons, so it feels a little more fast-paced, but you actually retain the time to kill a little better. But generally speaking, the game feels very well balanced right now, and the sweet spot is right in the middle of 0 and 2000 CPU. Obviously, you can't have a 0 CPU build. About 500 is going to be your minimum. But as you can see, I am able to just utterly go around and pretty much wreck everything I run across with a build like this. And that is exactly what you want. You want a very versatile, well-balanced build that strikes a good middle ground between massive amounts of armor and little damage, and massive amounts of damage but little armor. The bots that have massive amounts of damage but little armor, that's a min-max build, like your chain gun floating around on 4 tiny hovers. That it may be effective at capturing towers and attacking the reactor, but when you come across another enemy, you're going to get melted. You're just going to die. So as you can see, we did pretty well that round. While I was rambling on, I believe I got second place both score and damage, so I hope you enjoyed that video. See you next time.